I want to talk, so I really want to take you guys all on a hike. That's really what I want to do. And I think I'm going to take you on a hike through my work. So in my work, there's really three basic themes that reoccur over and over again. One, of course, well, I'll go back again. One is looking close to make sense of the larger world. And what I call that is connecting the molecular and the monumental. The second is how I locate myself in the world. And the third theme is really why I want to expand the context of landscape painting for the 21st century, not just in terms of time, but space and causality, how every part of the landscape is interlinked. So in the talk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk over two films that I did in collaboration with some really young filmmakers, Emma Rose and Ben Tull, and some slides. And then I am really looking forward to answering any questions. So please save them for the end. I hike daily and carry with me questions. How does nature form us? And how do we form nature? What is fixed in the world and what is fluid? Do the rocks change the water, or does the water change the rock? What is the fixed point? Is there one? Or is change the constant force? How do we select what we see? And why do we edit our experiences? We as humans experience the world in ephemeral moments. We hear a note, we smell a wonderful dish, we see a leaf fall in the water and watch the ripples. The phenomena themselves change and transform. We then store some of those experiences and unintentionally or intentionally edit them. We are the vessels that accumulate these edited and altered ephemeral experiences. I walk through life trying to capture these and translate them into paint. I was born in Calgary, Alberta, and grew up in Montreal, Quebec. My first job was as a nature interpreter for Parks Canada. And today, I still consider myself an interpreter of the natural world. A lot of the things I learned at that job, I practice today. Walk slowly, observe all the details, and they will tell you a bigger picture. Working at Elk Island National Park, north of Edmonton, the park had a large herd of buffalo, and our job was to maintain the delicate balance of not letting the land be overgrazed, but making sure the buffalo had enough to eat. We inventoried 12-inch squares of land, determining the health of the larger whole. Can you tell from 12 inches? Well, I would pause to see a plant that's thriving in a pond. I can tell that, particularly this plant is a pickleweed, and it's an invasive, so I could tell that soon the plant would multiply in the pond, and as it fills in, the pond will soon lose oxygen and not be able to sustain the plants that live there today. It will eventually become meadow. These changes, big and small, are the underpinning of my work. I returned to the same spot. That's, by the way, the same pond just 1 year later. I returned to the same spot year after year to see in the spring skunk cabbage unfurling, or in the fall the milkweed caught by the wind. These moments fix me to the season. This is a piece I did in 1998, and I returned to the same spot in 2000. This is on vellum. In 2012, I was doing a series where I was casting all the pieces on hydrostone and then painting over oil paint. So this is milkweed done that way. This is Medulla done in 2015, and it's a piece where I was thinking it's a milkweed, and I was really thinking in this particular piece about how would the milkweed think? How does that plant think? This is fall purse, and it's in the show at the Qualia Gallery. And this is also at the Qualia Gallery, called Of the Wing. And it's really thinking about the milkweed, how it is this season and how it'll affect next season. So you can see in this piece the relationship of the seeds on the wind and what they will do. This is called Marks for the Wind, and it's 2018. Also at Qualia. How I locate myself in the world. As a child, there's somebody here from this community, so they'll recognize it. As a child, I traveled in my imagination, connecting dots on the map. During the summer, we played in little houses full of maps. One building was planes, this one was boats, and this one was cars, and they were little houses that we got to play in. And I felt like what I did during the summer when we were doing that, the maps and the little houses really fueled my travel in my mind and helped me wrinkle the map together from places far away to my little spot in the woods. So when I look for landscape, I deal with that now. So here's a series I did really based on that called Fragile Navigation. And it incorporates maps of areas that are further with the specificity of that particular place. So these are routes that connect us. This is a detail of that piece. And this is a larger one. It is now, it was at the Boston Public Library. This is the Johnson Lobby by Philip Johnson. And it's an 85-foot wall here. These are hanging on. Okay, this brings us to the third point, which is time, space, and causality. Because painting is not really just a linear thought. It's not like music, it's not like writing. It's not read left to right. For me, it's a place in the middle. And as a middle child, I felt like I felt my edges against my siblings. And painting for me is such a place. It seems that it's a place between seen and imagined, between representation and abstraction, between living and dying, between fact and fiction, and remembering and forgetting, between the monumental and the molecular. I want to paint the sum of my understanding of the landscape. I combine different scenes as well as different moments, conveying my sense of how they connect. So in this piece, I did this piece for the White Museum in Banff. That's one of the shows that she referred to that has been what we call pandemic postponed. And in this piece, I'm really talking about sort of mountain time and water time, and how each, and I don't know if you can see, but in the back here, there's some tourists. What is tourist time? What is when somebody comes to a place like Banff, Alberta and visits it for a day versus somebody who lives there? So there's tourist times, is how we experience things over time and in one place and over place. Anyway, I was very lucky. I have a very adventurous mother. So in 1982, we got to go to China, and I carried back with me a deep appreciation for Asian art and a lot of Russia. In Western art, white space is called negative space, blank space, or empty space. In Asian art, it is seen differently. Coming from the printmaking tradition, or you have to you sort of hold on to the whites of your page. You think of them, because once you print over them, you can't get them back. So for me, it's a space that allows the marks to breathe, the place of connection where nature and humankind meet, that can lead to growth and decay. I think Francois Chang, in his book, Empty and Full, said it best. In the Chinese perspective, emptiness, this is his quote, in the Chinese perspective, emptiness is not, as one might suppose, something vague or non-existent. It is dynamic and active, linked with the idea of vital breath and with the principle of alternation of yin and yang. It is a preeminent site of transformation, the place where fullness can attain its whole measure. By the way, I will highly recommend this book. It's Empty and Full by Francois Chang. With that in mind, in the last few years, I started painting scrolls. Scrolls are the story of time unfurling. You can open the scroll at random to different points, being caught at a moment, not knowing where you are. I wanted to give everybody the experience of nature over time, not just one moment, but many moments, not just one place, but many places. These scrolls enable me to expand the concept of landscape. And this is a scroll that was actually Dacia, was at the Qualia Contemporary Gallery that Dacia placed at a restaurant in Mendocino, in Menlo Park. Let's take a moment. The reason why I did this is so that we could see the details of some of these pieces that often get seen very quickly. This is a piece I did called Schumann Resonance, talks about the Earth's heartbeat. And that's also for the White Museum. It's 56 feet long. So these are many scrolls that were done in a period. As Da Vinci said, water is the earth's blood. My new work makes visible the importance of our role as stewards of the environment. The work emphasizes what we do upstream impacts our future. My work celebrates the natural world and its ineffable mysteries. So these pieces, this is a detail of the piece before. And this is, these are very large pieces dealing with sort of water and the input of some water poisoning that I've been following. Just like nature has evolved, my work has evolved. I marry my materials to what I'm painting. So this is a series I did, the Unstill Life. I can't come up years off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But where I was really trying to deal with printmaking, I was dealing with printmaking at the time. This is in New York when I was really talking about the multiplicity of architecture and the multiple views, and I dealt with that by collaging. I dealt with a lot of scrolls Mylar when I was really trying to deal with the transparency. This is a series I did called Fragile Seasons, where I would talk about a friend of mine who had an early death, and I wanted to save his garden. So I would every day go to the garden and harvest something and embed it in clay and then in plaster and painted it. And I did a large series of those. Then I painted on metal, dealing with different pollutants and the hydrostone. So in all of these, I'm really trying to change my material so it matches what I want to talk about. Once again, that. And I'm going to end with this piece and a quote from William Tempest, actually. And she said, "We will find beauty in this broken world." And I feel that to be true. And I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you again for coming.
Ilana,
yes.
Thank you so much. It's such it's amazing talk. I think I'm so glad, we decided to do this because I got to know much more about your work. And I really appreciate for everyone, if you have questions, please, you can either just, I think I didn't disable your, if I did, you can make a request or you can put your question in chat. So we can ask Ilana. We still have about at least maybe 15 minutes we'll give. Ilana, do you still have some time and to answer questions? Meanwhile, I'm going to show a short video. If you stop sharing, and then I'm going to show a short video, see if I can find it. So where is my video? Give me 1 second.
Oh, just a little. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how nice.
Okay, let me get started. And then let me stop it. I think hopefully. Share screen. Do you have it here? And can you all see the video?
Cassie, I think you need to change the share to the video screen.
I have to change that. Okay, so let me stop sharing. So I have to go to the particular sharing screen. This should be the right one. This is the full screen. Do I have full screen?
Yes, you're in full screen.
Good. So this is the other artist exhibition. And I hope, any of you, if you can, come to the gallery and visit this exhibition. So we have 2 solo shows going on. And now we'll give the time to the audience for questions.
I think Scott had a question.
Yes. So
Yeah,
Ilana, you
if
can
I
see
can-
the question, right?
I'm just trying to find it. Hold on. Scott asked, were your own scrolls inspired in any way by extensive history of Asian scrolls? And is there an intended element of time as one views them along one axis? So the answer to the last part of the question is very intentionally no. I really wanted people, I think people should move at their own pace. And that's one of the things that I love that is non-linear about or in film you move at the pace of the film. In music you can experience it differently, but you are listening in time. But I feel like in art you can really experience it in your own way. So I do want people not to have a particular time schedule on that. And I'm not an Asian scholar, but I do feel like it's a format and a sense of looking at the world that makes sense to me. So in that way, am I influenced by it? Yes. Have I studied it and am I a scholar in it? No. So I hope that answers.
Ilana, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
David in Providence.
Oh, hey, David. I just want everybody to know David has also just had a show at Qualia.
Yeah.
And Qualia, and is my teacher.
Yeah, a long time ago, right? You know, but work and admired your work for many years. And I wonder if you could talk about your restlessness as an artist. You're always exploring new materials and experimenting with process. And I see that as a restlessness, and I wonder how you'd respond to that.
I guess I see it, I would say it's a restlessness, but more than that, I feel like there's different materials really offer different, a different language. And I really am interested in what each material has to offer. So yes, no, there are some artists who go down, find one mode and one language that works for them, and that's what they do a deep dive into that. I have really in my art career been much broader about saying, what does this do? You know, why and how can I make that work for me? Also, when I'm trying to talk about things that are fluid, I'm looking for things that are fluid. You know, I'm looking for materials that will match that. When I'm looking for things that are fragile, when I'm trying to paint things that are fragile, you know, I went to plaster because I felt like it is fragile, right? It's got that fragility in the materiality of it. So it's a restlessness, but it's also a need to kind of embrace the different materials for what they do. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Hi, David.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Marianne, did you have a question?
Yes. First, I'm just so happy to see you, Lana.
I feel the same way. I saw your face and I was like, yay!
I'm just so happy to see the evolution of your work. And I just wanted to quote a line and then actually pursue Scott's question just a little bit. And the line is from Tolkien about what art does. And he said, it is to kindle hearts in a world that's grown chill. And that's what I have always thought about with you, except I will add a little bit. He said to kindle hearts, but it's also to awaken perception and the heart and bring them together. And that's what all of your work has always done for me. And the new, the old, it all comes together in just this great celebration of life at a time when we all are so troubled by our stewardship of the earth. But I want to continue Scott's question just a little bit. I have been wrestling with this, and I didn't realize it till today, that the way you portray water often has such an Asian influence. And I kept thinking of all these different Japanese artists and how they portray waves. And then I see, were you influenced by that, or is that just the mutuality of perception that Asian you have fused in your work?
I think there's often I call it a call and response.
Ah,
It's not one or the other. I do respond strongly to the sense, I feel like they capture in Asian art, there's a sense of, I'm always interested in how you look small. And I want people to be able to, because I feel like once you see something in the world, you begin to see it everywhere, right?
mhm.
So once it's really a way of training a vision. So once you begin to see those small moments, you see them everywhere. I mean, it's, you know, it's like once somebody identifies a flower for you, you all of a sudden realize it must be a weed. It's growing everywhere. But in Asian art, there's something about that dance between the molecular and the monumental that I see, and I think I respond to it. So it's like, it's that sort of, am I trying to emulate it exactly? No, but I do respond, and I think it has to come into that vision.
Mm. Reminds me of Gregory Bateson, who's just see all these patterns of nature. And I just got a little chat from Lori Lax, a fellow neuroscientist. And when I saw your medulla, all I could think of was medulla oblongata. And I saw the cerebellum suddenly in your work. And I think, oh my God, so much of all of nature has these patterns that come together. And your work just, even whether you know it or whether the viewer knows it, it's in there. So anyway, it's very exciting. So I'll stop talking. I'm just so full of
Oh no,
thoughts.
I would so love to see you. I didn't know you and Lori knew each other. That's so fabulous.
Well, we don't really, but we just now made the connection. And so it's so exciting for me to see. So hello to Lori.
Lori's my sister-in-law. Did you know that?
I know, but I didn't know this. I didn't know this. Of course, you know, it takes you to bring us together across the whole country, 2 coasts.
It's so fun.
Um,
I think Shelley has a question too. So Shelley asked,
Ilana, following Marianne's question, I do have a question. I thought when you were here, I was about to ask you, but then I forgot. So look at your water painting. That is one actually is really enchanting to me. And I wonder, have you ever actually looked or see Ma Yuan's painting? He made a series, it's a Song Dynasty artist. He made a series of painting called A Study on the Properties of Water.
Mm.
And if you want, I could share the screen.
would love that.
See if I can, see if I can. I'm not sure whether, so here, this is your painting.
Yes.
And then, so he made a whole series of water painting. And that's actually very unique, because, you know, most of Chinese, when we do the traditional Chinese painting, when we paint water, we just leave a space, you know, like a waterfall. If we have just gap, nothing, that's a waterfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the river pretty much the same. But he made, I think, more than 10 paintings. It's just all the wave. It's meticulously, you know, like a line by line, draws the water shape. Mm-hmm. And also, if you look at this, that's, I think I didn't mention that to you. I said I love that your painting just reminds me the, you know, the water.
I just love those
traditional ceramics. So I wonder whether, just as Marianne just said, you know, it's just your inspiration took you there, or you ever actually exposed to that?
I wasn't exposed to it, but I can't wait to see it closer. now I'm making notes as you talk. I'm gonna go study it now.
I'll check it out. I think if I'm right, it's probably in Metropolitan Museum if I'm right. If I'll check it out and show
Okay,
you.
we have a date. We gotta go.
Yeah. So I'm
Um,
sorry, continue the question. Yes.
I think Shelley Metzenbaum said about the art, please talk more about how you think about white space in so much of your artwork and material, how you think about the material you use. You seem to experiment with so many different materials. Great question. And Shelley, the white, what I was talking earlier in the talk about how the difference between how the Western sees white space. I come from it sort of, once again, I feel like I embody the space in between. But as a printmaker, you know, when you're doing a print, everything you cover, you can't get back to white. So you really think about, how does a white space hold energy? How does it hold the place? How does it change the way you envision things? And how does it direct the eye? So often when I think about the space, I never think about it as empty space. I'm really thinking the whole time about, how does that carry you through the experience? And how does that, they talk a lot about in Asian art, and in particular, once again, that book, Empty and Full, I can't recommend high enough, but it really does talk about this space as breath. And I believe that. Oh, look what Marianne's got up there. And then the next thing that what was the other question? Material. Oh, the fact that I switch materials all the time. And I was thinking more about what David Fraser said about restless. I think there's some truth to that, actually, because I got to a point of printmaking where I liked printmaking a lot and might get back to printmaking. But if I know what it's going to look like, it's not worth me doing it. I want the surprise. I want the material to do something that's surprising to me and then respond. So that's where I think about it, as the call and response, as how am I surprised by this material? What is it doing that I kind of can go, oh, I have to respond in the moment. I have to capture that and move it this way. And so I keep switching because each one brings something different. I hope that answers. Is there any other questions that I have to? Anyway, thank you again so much for coming. I know it's a busy time for everybody, and screen time is.
Yeah, I do have actually a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
In your presentation, I think I'm very curious. A couple of images shows the material is quite unique. One I think is in the Boston Public Library. Could you explain that piece? I think it looks like it's a mixed medium, and it's almost like a sculptural work.
It is sculptural. It's made out of hydrostone, and hydrostone is a form of plaster that is it's a very thick plaster. It's an industrial. You can throw it and it won't crack, even though you can hammer it and it will crack, which I've done. But so it's hydrostone, which I would pour onto a glass surface, and then let it set with roots. And I wanted the roots to be, I coated them so they will last forever, but I wanted them to really talk about nature and how nature connects all these places, and also how roots connect. I mean, we're really all connected. So there's roots in it. The maps are maps from the Leventhal Map Center that I took and then photographed and put them on. They're not actually in there. I used them, did a form of transfer. So transferred parts of those maps that were really original to the time period in Boston, and then used and painted. So it is mixed media.
I see. And you also mentioned there's a piece for your friend, like for early death, and
So,
mhm.
yeah.
Is
So
that
that's
more like, because you said you go to the garden like every day or every
well, it was a very funny story because he was in hospital and he would call me and say, "Can you harvest whatever the plant was at the time?" And I diligently went off, not realizing it was a community garden. And I think I was the garden thief for the year. I just harvested everybody's garden willy-nilly, unknowingly, and would take it back and I would embed it. So here's the clay, here's a piece of clay, and I would take the plant and put it into the clay, leaving a convex, pulling the plant out, but leaving the negative of the plant, in which I would pour hydrostone. So then I would make that, basically I made a mold for each plant. I would cast that. And both because I wanted them to be they would disintegrate, the mold would disintegrate by pulling out the plaster. So in that, it was one of a kind pieces. And I would paint them. And they really talked about that fragility of how to, it was my intent to see how do you hold on to a part of someone's life. And really the fragility that you can't, you don't do that you do that in moments and in memory, but not really hold on to the life.
Mm-hmm. What is this piece?
It's scattered now. Some of it is in a temple, some of it is, a lot of it's in a storage unit. Some is collectors. It's really all over the place. It's not seen as an entirety anymore.
Yeah, for me, I think this piece, you always emphasize your work, emphasize the place and time. For me, this, it's like the work itself, has this time there, but you connect that almost like a ritual performance. So I really hope I can see this piece, even just part of it. Yeah. And I think, I'm sorry, I have to hold you a little longer. There's a couple more questions. Noticing the use of strong red or orange in recent stuff, can you explain significance from Sherry Novick?
Absolutely. Sherry is a fellow hiker and lovely woman. That's a really good question because I'm using the red in place of the man-made. Of what's man-made, what not necessarily poison, but what is our influence, and that fact that I want to make visible the impact of that. The impact of the man-made in the natural environment. And so I wanted to make it a very synthetic color and not seen in nature. So I really chose that specifically for that.
And thank you, Ilana. So I have my last question for you. Yeah, as David said, I can sense that your mind and even physically you are restless. You have so much energy, like bursting around. So my question, I saw the video you showed, and you tried all the different mediums. I wonder whether you would ever consider doing video?
Oh my God, it's so complicated, but I would love to. But it once again has that thing where it's linear, right? So you're taking somebody not on their speed or their time, but on your time. And so I'm trying to figure out a way of using art where I'm creating images, erasing them and adding them and subtracting them. And so far, I have not been successful. They're horrible. But someday I'll get there. But I've been thinking about it.
You're probably too critical to yourself. I think you'll do a great job.
No, trust me, they're not good.
I saw Mrs. Manolson raised her hand. First, we need to salute to you. And do you have any questions?
Mom, you're muted.
Can I ask you?
She knows.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
you're still muted, Mom. You have to press unmute.
Is it
I'd
okay?
like to introduce, this is my mother, Ayala,
Am
the
I-
one who brought us to China in 1982.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's amazing too. That's just
What's
right
that?
after 1978, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd raised my hand because you said, who has one of those works that were the result of Lonnie's response to her dying friend's garden?
Oh,
I wanted to let you know I have that. And I have many others as well. So if you come to Toronto, as Lonnie says, I have the best collection.
definitely. That's another day that we'll visit you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been
Thank you.
a treat, a real treat. Great.
Any questions? Any more questions? I think so far we did good. And this time we actually kept in less than 1 hour. Yeah. So just want to, I think David is also here. We should thank him. He's such a supporting husband, right, Ilana?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's right. He's also right behind me, which is lovely. And he's been the best. Okay, great.
And so if no more questions, and I just want to thank all of you. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, Ilana, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Really, really
Bye.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.